Hello everyone. So this is the second lesson about articles. I meant to have this in the group last week, but last week I don't know what happened, it got a bit busy. So I'm uploading this for you today. So before we get started, um, I just want to explain to you that the ideas in this presentation are quite complicated. Um, so I would recommend you don't need to watch this video if you are B1 or below. It's really best for people at C1 or C2, but if you think you're at B2 and you would like to watch, that's fine. Of course, if you're lower than B2 and you want to watch, go for it, but this is quite strange, complicated stuff. And the other thing to let you know is that these ideas are really just to kind of make you start thinking. I don't think you will get to the end of this and feel, oh, wow, I understand. Okay, so please don't worry if you don't feel you understand articles at the end. I'm not sure I completely understand articles. Um, So it's really just to kind of perhaps give you a slightly different way to look at them, which hopefully over time will help you kind of shift your perspective a little bit. So with that said, let's go. So today we're going to talk about using articles to talk about definite and indefinite things. Last time we talked about how articles can help talk about, so there's lots of talk abouts, specific and generic things, but today I'm going to talk about how articles can help us show if something is definite or not. So I'm going to talk about definite and indefinite a lot in this lesson. Definite means that something is clear, and indefinite means it's not clear. And to make this more real, we're going to talk about dogs because pretty much most people like to talk about dogs. And this over here is Molly, and she's my little Chinese dog. So she's going to be helping us talk about articles today. So I'm going to show you several sentences about dogs. The sentences will come in pairs, so you will see two sentences on each slide of the PowerPoint. I'll ask you some questions and I'll give you a pause for you to think about the questions before I explain them. So here's your first sentence. Yesterday, a dog chased me down the street. And the other sentence is, the dog chased me all the way home. And the questions I would like you to think about are, which sentence talks about specific things, generic things, a dog we know, and a dog we don't know. So this would be a definite thing, and this would be an indefinite thing. Now there may not be an example of all of these, so perhaps if you think, oh well, there isn't anything generic here, well that's okay. But I'm going to give you maybe half a minute, maybe not quite that long, but I'm going to give you several seconds to have a think, perhaps make some notes, then I'm going to give you a little explanation. Okay, so the first sentence talks about a specific dog. Now, I know that might seem strange, and it kind of seems strange to me because we don't know what dog this is, but we are not talking about dogs in general. So we are talking about a specific dog, but it's indefinite. We don't know which dog this is. The other sentence is still talking about a specific dog. So again, we're not talking about dogs in general, but this time it's definite. We now know which dog it is. It's that one. It's the one that chased me. Same sentences, but this time we've got more than one dog chasing me. So yesterday, dogs chased me down the street. The dogs chased me all the way home. The questions are the same, so just have a little think about specific and general, dogs we know, dogs we don't know. Okay, so the first sentence talks about specific dogs, and again, this is strange, right? You might be thinking, but this should be in general, but they're not dogs in general. They are specific, but they're still indefinite, so we don't know which dogs, although we do know they're not dogs in general. The next sentence still talks about specific dogs, but this time they are definite, so we've got the definite article here, which gives us this kind of feeling that we know the dogs. Okay, so essentially these two sentences are plural versions of the sentences on the slide before. Okay, so here are some different sentences, and I'm actually not being chased this time. So the dog was the first domesticated animal. Dogs were the first domesticated animal. Same questions for you to think about: specific, generic, dogs we know and dogs we don't know. Alright, so the first one, we are now talking about dogs in general. So it's crazy, right? We've got a single noun with a definite article, but we are talking about all dogs, and it's definite. Okay, so this article the is expressing shared knowledge. If I say this sentence, I'm assuming you know what this animal is. Okay, the other sentence, this part's the same. We're still talking about all dogs. We're talking about generic dogs, but it's indefinite. So we're talking now about dogs as a collective group or as a class of animals. Alright, now this is the last pair of sentences, and this time we're going to talk about cats and dogs, which we all know how it ends with cats and dogs, and particularly with this dog. So, a dog will always chase a cat if it can. Dogs will always chase cats if they can. There's your questions. Alright, now this is starting to get even stranger because we've got a single noun with an a, but this sentence is actually talking about any dog. It's talking about generic dogs and cats, and it's indefinite. This is also talking about any dog. This is probably one you're more familiar with. So plural noun with no article, generic dogs, and it's indefinite. So that's really strange, right? Because we've got two different sentences with the same meaning. What is going on? So we can use a or an to talk about generic and indefinite things, like up here, or specific and indefinite things, like we have down here. So it's always indefinite, but it can be specific or generic. This one, dogs would always chase cats if they can. This is a zero article plus plural noun, and this talks about generic and indefinite things. And remember, this was the thing I mentioned last time. This is a very, very common mistake, which is to use the plus plural noun to talk about generic and indefinite things. It's not possible, because as soon as you have an article before your plural noun, we're talking about specific and definite things. So, here's a little bit of advice, 3 tips on how you can practice this stuff. So, number 1, read. I can't explain to you in enough words how important reading is for your language development. I learnt Chinese through reading and reading and reading, and that's how I got to the level I reached in Chinese. So read as much English as you can. It doesn't matter what you read. So whatever your hobbies are, whatever you're interested in, you will be able to find something about it to read in English. It's really important to make sure the reading text is easy enough for you to understand about 80%. So that means you don't have to be able to understand everything, but you do need to be able to understand most of it. And graded readers, I talk to all my students about graded readers. They are simply fantastic. This is basically called extensive reading. And it's literally one of the best things you can do to improve your language. Alright, and sometimes you do need to actually think. So if you're reading something, every so often, not too often, but just a couple of times a week or something, choose a short paragraph or sentence even. If you don't want to look at a whole paragraph, choose a sentence. Find all the articles, including all the zero articles. And just ask yourself, why? Why did the writer choose this article? What are the articles doing? Is it specific or general, indefinite or indefinite? And another thing you can do is to try writing but short little texts, simple texts. I'm not talking about IELTS essays here, just something easy. But really think about the articles that you want to use. And you're totally free to post these texts into the group, and I'm happy to give you some feedback. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found this video useful, give it a little like underneath the video, just so I know how this was for you. And if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything that you don't feel comfortable about, please do post your questions here. I'm very happy to answer questions. And just to say again, there is no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to articles. So I hope that was interesting. I hope it's given you something to go away and think about. And I'll see you next time. We're going to go back to pronunciation in the next video.